on your level 3. But at the same time, the exam for this is a multiple choice exam, right? So it's multiple choice. And the day for the exam typically is a Wednesday, right? Multiple choice typically is a Wednesday. You would have 1 hour and a half to complete 40 questions. And of the 40 questions, you have to get 24 correct to be awarded the NIBOSH process safety certificate. The certificates are good for life. They do not expire. They, once you get them for life. And it's not a tough exam, but at the same time, you have to study. So I wouldn't say it's over difficult. It's a nice Sunday course, we often like to say. It's not that difficult, but you have to study. I haven't had anybody fail in some time, right? I had somebody that failed, but I think I may have explained what would have happened there. He had somebody in the room, and once they spot somebody in the room, they would freeze the exam, and you have to reset. You have to kind of get the person out of the room and reset, right? So for this exam, you need internet access. Just kind of keep that in mind. You need a good internet access. Like kind of stay close to your router. I had an experience where a student was far from their router, and the questions didn't load, and it said load in, but because the questions load one at a time, right? So like out of the 40 questions, they come up one at a time, and it said load in, but the questions didn't load like in sequence, well, not sequence, but in time. So by the hour and a half, all the questions, like he was probably just at number 10 and stuff because the rest of the questions didn't load. But other than that, and other than you doing the exam by yourself, remember that, right? Remember you have to log on, and you are doing the exam by yourself. Let's put yourself here. And the webcam is going to be on, so make sure you have a good device, a laptop, or one of those handheld devices anyway, right? A tablet or something.
So by the way, I use the not desktop without a camera, so I have to get my laptop.
Yeah, you have. No, you had to get, I guess you had to get a webcam.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's something you just buy $100 and something a webcam, and you just had to download the software into the desktop.
All right, cool.
Right? But you can do that before, and try to log on class with it. Don't leave that for the week of the exam and then realize that you don't like the system and working and stuff like that, right? So kind of do that before and try to have it sorted out. Then like when we say by chapter 4, I'll be able to kind of give you a day for the exam, but I know it's a Wednesday. It is going to be the last Wednesday in April or the last Wednesday in May, right? NIBOSH certificate exam is the first Wednesdays. The process is the last. In fact, no, it's not the last Wednesday. It's the third Wednesday, right? It's the third Wednesday of April or the third Wednesday in May. We would be finished by that time. But those are the two tentative days anyway, right? And you all have been going good, with the sessions. You have been going good with the payments and stuff. We haven't had much issues here with this particular batch, right? But don't make it an issue. Just try to sort the technology piece of it before. To write the exam is very simple. You download, like the first time you log on, you download a software into your system. It will actually prompt you to do it. It takes about maybe 10 seconds. And the day of the exam, that is a software that turns on your webcam and sort of monitors the exam anyway. It is really without a hitch. Maybe what I could do, I could send a video for you. It's like a 30 seconds video from NIBOSH itself, sort of detailing, like the setup then, right? But then their video it may make it look easier than it is anyway. I do have a student, I had a student that did it, and who did like a recording of their experience now, right? I think one of my coordinators have that, so I could probably check with them and see. Or the student himself have that. His name is Nairon, right? And I'll send it to you all. But that is coming closer to the exam. If you are a repeater, if you have done NIBOSH before, so that would be people like Callister, Nikisia, who again we have here. If you have done another NIBOSH exam and I'm not familiar, right? Just know that it's the same link that you use for your certificate program, right? NIBOSH doesn't issue new links. So that if you want to try to run a search on your desktop, they could issue back the same link, but they wouldn't issue a different link, right? So people like Callister, Nikisia, if I have any more students who did the NIBOSH exam, the same platform you use for the open book exam, meaning the same link, right? It's the same link that this exam will come on. So if you can find that link when we finish and I sign you up for the exam, which may be this month or early next month, those of us who are familiar with the platform, I'll show you what it looks like instead of these two little rectangles, right? So you'll see your two icons, then you'd have seen NG, and that would have been those who did the NIBOSH lavatory. And for this one, when we sign you all up, when we have the data and stuff, you'll see the PSM icon. And that is what you'll click on the Wednesday of the exam anyway, right? It may sound a bit difficult, but it is really a seamless process. Students, since 2020 have been using it. And like the only thing that really gives trouble, I say, is if somebody come in your room, and in which case the system picks it up or somebody sees it, like an examiner. That's the only issue we had really. And then the one guy with the internet, but that was, this is Trinidad, and I guess you're in, some of us in Guyana too. There are certain spots then, there are certain areas that are prone to internet issues. But you may want to take some data and stuff on your phone and use your phone as as a hotspot device in the event of those things occurring on the day of the exam, right? I just thinking to exam maybe in April, May, or the end of April or the end of May. April month tends to have some rain. So if rain affects internet where you are at, just consider that as better have some sort of data plan. May tend to be dry, but if it's around the end of May, it may be rainy. I'm not too sure. The folks in Guyana say rain season is around June month, right? For you all have a kind of different, like for us, the rain season really starts in June, but goes straight down to the end of the year. But for Guyana, I think you all said it's a bit different, right?
Yes, sir. It's May, June.
It's May, June as well.
Yeah, May, June is rain. They call it May, June rain.
Oh, okay. But we don't get too much rain in May. We don't get too much, but June month, Trinidad is often prone to some sort of freak storm in June. Every June there's some kind of event, but then it kind of settles out. The rest of the rain season, as we call it, tends to be okay. All right, let's have a go with this one. So that's what I wanted to mention in terms of the exam. Let's clean this off and we can make a start, right? So as I mentioned before, because the recording is on the WhatsApp group there, I wouldn't even touch Bowtie or FME, all of those things. I saw it on the recording and it is right at your fingertips there. So we can move on to permit to work. I'll read a couple slides first and then we'll explain. I actually remember doing this in oil and gas, right? This same kind of concept anyway, but this is process safety, right? So a permit to work is a formal written system used to control certain types of work that has a high hazard potential. It includes the people, equipment, materials, and the environment involved in the system. The permit to work also includes the mechanism to control the work to ensure it is done in the correct way, such as supervision and confirming signatures on the permit document. I'll explain in a bit. Some of this is kind of easy anyway. All right, so the permit to work features of a permit, it specifies the work to be done. It predetermines a safe procedure for the work. It is a clear record that foreseeable hazards have been considered in advance. It defines the appropriate sequence in which the work is to be carried out. It sets out the responsibilities of authorized persons. It confirms that critical steps have been taken and by whom. A permit to work should be used whenever the method by which the task is done is likely to be critical to the health and safety of those involved. The types of work may involve hot work of any type or the use of tools or equipment that may create sparks in an area where there is the possibility of fire or explosion. Entry into a confined space, work on pressurized vessels, coal work, or electrical work. Permit to work are typically formalized by pre-printed forms. These are used to specify the hazards likely to be present and the controls that are in use, such as electrical isolation to prevent electric shock. It can form a logical link between a method statement and can also be considered in task analysis. Task analysis consists of a formal step-by-step review of the work to be carried out, right? I read instead because I don't think it's that difficult. The operation of a permit to work would involve ensuring the proper authorization of the specified work, confirmation of the identity, nature, timing, extent, and limitation of the work, establishing criteria to be considered when identifying hazards and what they are, confirmation that hazards have been removed where possible, confirmation that work has been started, suspended, conducted, and finished safely. Confirmation of who has control of the location, equipment relating to work where it is passed between parties, controlling change and considering other work activities that might interact with the specified work, providing a record that the steps in the permit to work have been followed. And I'm still thinking about past papers, right? And to be honest, I don't have any past papers, right? But I read instead, right? So operation, the permit issuer, the person issuing the permit is known as the issuing authority or the authorized person, ensures that the permit to work are correctly or written correctly. Kind of, right? I mean, in real life, it's a bit different. Specifying all the necessary risk control terms and conditions that are applicable to the type of work being completed. The permit receiver, which is actually a couple of people, it's actually not one person. The permit receiver is like a supervisor, an operative, the person doing the work, more than one person doing the work. A lot of persons receive a permit, right? So whoever the permit receivers are or the permit users are, they are to ensure that he or she is knowledgeable about and understand fully the hazards and risks that are associated with the work that is being completed. A competent person, again, this is the British here for you, right? This is some headings on a permit, but you know, in a real permit, you might have the person actual position, right? But in the British, you just say a competent person. Competent person adequately qualified, suitably trained, with sufficient experience to safely perform work as outlined, without or with only a minimum degree of supervision. Authorized gas tester is a person who is trained, competent, and authorized to use gas testing instruments to measure gas concentration in an area where people and equipment will be working and determine whether the atmospheric conditions are safe for doing the work. The key features of a permit to work includes the scope of the work, the duration of the work, any known hazards and reference to risk assessment, isolation of energy sources and processes or process equipment, such as lockout and tagout, if there's a link to any permit to any other shift that is to be considered as well. Features of a permit to work, specification of persons accepting the permits and verification of their understanding of the risk and control measures. All of these are on the permit, right? Emergency controls, specific controls such as for gas testing, we just mentioned that. A permit to work can serve as a means of obtaining or passing on information on hazards and controls between simultaneous operation or with adjacent plant, or at least it should be. It can also serve as an interface between contractors on various shifts. So typical circumstances when a permit to work is not required, the answer is when is a permit not required when the hazard potential of the task isn't critical, right? So anyway, I think that is a question, right? But they didn't say it like that. After all of that, I would kind of touch some stuff here in a bit, right? But really for everyday life. But a question that came for exam here wasn't even about the contents of the permit, but it was when is a permit to work required, right? And I think that was the first slide. And it may have been the last slide as well, right? So when let me try to get it back for you, right? So a permit to work is a formal written system used to control certain types of work that has a high hazard potential. So that's the answer you're looking for. A permit to work is not an everyday document. It's when, like confined space then, right? Entry into an excavation, hot work, those may not be everyday occurrences anyway. Those may be, it may or may not be, but if it is what your company is doing, if it is an everyday occurrence, well, fine, it will need a permit to work. But the rest of companies that are not doing those kind of work, when those work come up, like maintenance, welding, whatever, they would require a permit to work. So a permit to work is required for what is called high hazard, but they didn't even say that for the exam. They say high risk, right? So only for high risk work do you need a permit to work. Let me finish up this and I'll get to the raised hand, right? Yeah. I think it's Alison. Yes, Alison.
Yeah, I just say like when I listen to like for the Puma, I work for like a high risk. Like where I work in, when the safety manager,
Yeah.
he using the Puma to work for everything.
Yeah.
Like to walk out the lawn in front of the administration building,
No.
Puma to work, to power wash the driveway,
Yeah. Yeah.
Puma to work.
Yeah, that's so like what they're supposed to use as a GSA. A permit to work by definition is only meant for high risk operation, and that's an exam question. So it should not be used for, cutting the lawn. It should not be used for power washing the driveway, right? What you really need there is like a job safety analysis, a GSA, or you probably would need like a method statement or something. But the best thing there is like a GSA anyway, a job safety analysis.
All right.
So just to say, like I mean, like in the real world, and a lot of companies do their own thing. But remember, for exam, just kind of remember that, right? That a permit to work is only meant for certain type of work, those that have a high risk or a high hazard potential. Later on in the slide, they did actually say what those work would have been things like hot work, confined space, work at height, work on an excavation, things that the risk itself involved in it is going to be somewhat high, right? I'm trying to see now if how, I mean, I don't know if to do anything more because the like the more is not part of the exam, the more is not part of the exam. But I will still see if I can do a bit more anyway. Yes, Nikisia?
Yes, sir. So I have a question. So recently I would have went to a company that the HSC manager said that he doesn't do permit to work within the company and they do a lot of high risk operation. And his reason for that would have been it's too lengthy, right? It's too lengthy to go through and it will take up more time and more manpower and it will delay the process. So let's say for a company that doesn't use permit to work, what's the next best thing to use as a safety person?
Well, the first thing I'll want to say is what type of work was what type of work is actually being done? Like what type of work was it?
Construction, like building a bridge over a trench.
Right, so they mightn't really need a permit. I'd recommend a JSA. A JSA is just 3 columns, A JSA, a job safety analysis, and even for Allenson, I'll recommend those things anyway. You know, but again, I mean, in Guyana, I know the safety is not, the Ministry of Labor now is not too down on it, but there are certain aspects of a bridge, because I remember what those bridges look like. There are certain aspects like excavation require permits in it. Excavation is one of those special types of work that require a permit. Certain stages of welding would require a permit, right? But so this is with respect to Nikki's here, right? So like I'd recommend a JSA. A JSA is just 3 columns. So simply put, you could actually just go and download a JSA form from BP or something. You have the hazard. So you just have them get the hazard. If the issue is that it's a bit time consuming, the JSA should be easier because a permit have about 22 headings on it. right? That's what I said I didn't want to kind of touch none of that if it wasn't part of your exam, right? But the JSA have hazards. With the hazard, every hazard, they have what is the, sorry, what is the, no, my mistake, folks. Hazards is not first in a JSA. Let me just clean this a bit, right? Hazard is not first in a JSA. Hazard is there, but it's not first, right? So what we want to get, if it is a JSA, what you want to do, the first thing in the JSA is supposed to be job steps, right? So you take the task that you have to do on that day. So the job steps is taken, like the steps for that day, what the workers are doing. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And with every step, they consider the hazard. So hazard is actually second. So it's not too hard, it's just like 3 columns. And with every hazard, you consider what is the control. So if it's excavation, and we talk about things like removing dirt, the hazard can be things like crushing, right? Impact injuries, but then what is the control? So the controls could be things just like, making sure the workers are well away from the excavator, making sure that, the place is probably, when the work is being done, or if it's being done by hand, or certain parts of it being done by hand. But if it's being done by hand, that will be another hazard. So if it's step 2, the hazard, there can be manual handling, right? And with every hazard, then you consider what is the control. So a JSA may be a simpler go at it, to say that you have some measure of safety as opposed to no measure of safety at all, right? So job steps, hazards, and this supposed to be controls. Yes, Calista?
Yeah, that's something that came to mind.
Yeah.
Permit to work, does that have a start date? Like I know for a permit where we work, it have a start date and a stop date, but does it have a recommended start date we should go over the permit regardless with the contractor?
Does it have I think I heard the start date and stop date, but I didn't quite get the question clearly itself.
Does it have like a recommended time that we should go over the permit? Let's say so the job is a month running. But so often we should review the permit to the contractor, or it could run that long?
Still, again, the end part of the question, right? So you're saying that the permit has, so the timeline for the permit have been finished?
All right, do you hear me again now?
Yeah.
Right, what I'm asking is, does it have a timing for the permit that is recommended that you review the permit? For example, the job running for a month. So should the permit cover that long, or should it always be reviewed with the contractor?
I think, to be honest, the permit should not be that long, right? Because conditions change from day to day. I think there could be like one overarching permit. But the other thing is that permits are not issued for that long. What could be issued for that long is like a method statement, right? Permits are really, so is it that the entire day, if you say a month, is it that all the days of the month high risk work is taking place?
Let's say that is something the building, like they say the building, like recently where us they were building railings for the warehouses. So that entails welding and we store lubricants. So it's a high risk job. It really took like, let's say a week or 2, but should a permit run that long, or we should always review?
The answer for that is no. Because you see, the welding taking place 8 hours of the day, and I don't think it is. One of the features of a permit, or if you're getting in an excavation or getting into a tank, I think what is happening here, the companies are mixing up the purpose of a permit. I think what you all could probably do better, which is like a method statement, which is like what work is to be done, or a task analysis, like what work is to be done. And even a JSA, but JSAs could actually be issued daily as well, because of day-to-day hazards could change. I think what is happening there is that the permit is probably being misused then, because it's being used for a longer period of time, when in reality, the high-risk activity may not be taking place 8 hours of the day, right? And if it is, I would still kind of recommend the permit be issued the following day as well, because conditions could change. What if the welder is not the same welder? What if it is a younger welder? What if it rains? What if there is a vehicle that wasn't in the compound there yesterday that is parked next to the welder? So because things change, I think these documents should be issued on a daily basis. And really and truly, I do believe that the permit here is being misused, as it is not meant for such long durations anyway. I think you all are better off with a risk assessment or a method statement, a risk assessment for the task, a method statement for the task, a JSA for the task. But when the critical work starts, when the welding starts, or when the person starts to get into the excavation, right, then that is when you need the permit to work. It's not really meant for such longer operations anyway. Right, I'm gonna check with the chats a bit. Yeah, okay, so actually, so Anzari said, can prevention work for number 3? I think it could. I think in reality that the controls is the prevention, isn't it? Right? So you have steps, you have the hazard, you have the control. So if you have prevention, I think prevention is control, right? In some way. When you say prevention, I think it's really controls anyway that you're talking about, right? All right. You think you're all okay with this? But I think the issue here stems from the fact that that document is being abused and has been abused to do things it wasn't meant to do then, right? And there are other documents or there, method statements, JSAs, risk assessment. But you all catch the idea, because I think that's the idea for exam. And people do mix it up. There's a question that said, when is a permit to work required? And the answers are low risk, high risk, all times. And some of you all may put all time because that is how your company is using it. But the permit is not meant to be used 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day or 24/7, 7 days a week. It's not meant for that. It was never designed for that. So if you want, I could put 3 or 4 headings on the permit on the left-hand side here. That is kind of representative of what we're talking about, right? I wouldn't put more because I don't think the more is necessary anyway, right? But those who know when I did this, I can literally give you 10, but it's not that kind of exam. It's not where you have to kind of remember, right? So like some of the main headings on a permit is the word isolation, lockout and tagout, right? Isolation, right? Which means turning off the energy supply. And so I don't know if you're getting what I'm trying to tell you. This is like the first thing on a permit, right? Isolate, lockout and tag out. But are you locking out and tagging out for a whole week? The answer is no, because you lock out and tag out when you're about to get the work done and when you're about to enter a vessel or weld or whatever have you, right? So I'm not quite convinced. But I am aware of companies like fabricated companies like Tough Code that may be welding for the entire day. Still though, from one day to the other day, they would review that permit before work continues again, or maybe issue a new permit if a condition changes, right? Another thing here is, as you mentioned, there is time limit. The permit have to have this as a headed time limit, right? And this is actually meant to be not the sort of times that you all are saying. This time limit could actually be things like 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours. It's not meant to be 30 days, right? So of course, like I said, though, because nobody's looking and companies can do what they want, you could actually do that. A company could actually get a permit and put it 30 days. But in essence, that's not the meaning behind a permit. You could probably just do a method statement. A method statement is better at that. A method statement saying like what you're going to do for the next 30 days, right? So I think people mixing up the forms and using the forms, inappropriately then, which is okay because it's a real world. But for exam, you want to say what it is, right? So isolation, time limit, and the other one here is cancellation. So a permit has to be canceled, right? Because that high risk work that you're doing, right? The high risk work is not going to be taking place forever, as what you all are trying to say. You all are trying to say that a permit is in effect for 30 days, but it shouldn't be. Like I said, you're better for the RA day or something. And whenever the high risk work is done, if it is welded for 2-3 hours, or the permit must be cancelled, And if you have welding the following day, then a new one issued anyway, right? There are some more headings like authorized persons and stuff like that, but I kind of mentioned these here as it was a bit kind of relevant. There are no passive questions really on that. The passive question has been on things like the high-risk nature of the work itself that requires a permit to work, right? All right, I've taken that off. Let's move on a bit. So I did 3, right? I didn't do more than 3. Like I said, it's not that kind of exam where you have to write a whole passage on it, right? So is it that we are here then, right? So this one, the role and purpose and features of a permit to work, it specifies the work to be done. It predetermines a safe procedure for the work. I think I read that already. It's a clear record that foreseeable hazards have been considered in advance. It defines the appropriate sequence in which the work is to be carried out. It sets out responsibilities, authorized person, confirm critical steps have been taken and by whom, right? Let's get to the next one, right? So a permit to work should be used whenever the method by which the work is to be done is likely to be critical to the health and safety of those involved. I think I mentioned this already. The type of work may involve hot work, entry into confined spaces, work on pressurized vessels, cold work, and electrical work. All right, moving on again. I know we read all of this already, so we could probably finish it then, right? Read all that already. So we could get to the next one, which is safe shift handover, right? So this is a simple one as well. This is yet another document. This is yet another document, right? They say every second accidents or incidents in the industry is due to communication errors during shift change. Analyzing accident reports, scientists have discovered the following. In 4 of 5 cases, studied written notes were in part at the root of the accident because they were either misunderstood during the shift handover or simply not passed along at all. Shift handover in the petrochemical industry are everyday routine processes with proven workflows, instructions, and safety rules. The goal is the reliable and complete transmission of all relevant information needed by the subsequent team to continue the safe work. Efficiency means that you have effective communication and 0 accidents. Effective communication is best done in a shift handover in a 2-way system with both participants taking joint responsibility. Participants, despite being from different technical backgrounds and who may be technically astute, must also be effective communicators. Safe shift handover. Handover meetings are generally formal and structured. Many experts recommend discussing the various topics in order of relevance to take into account the falling attention span of those involved, the staff. Especially when working a 12-hour shift, identifying the criteria for simple and high-risk handover and defining suitable sequences for both types. Redundancy and diversity in the exchange media. It is ideal if both written as well as verbal communication channels are used. Personal conversations are the richest information channel. Active face-to-face dialogues are the easiest and most effective way to avoid or clear up ambiguities and misunderstanding. Direct feedback is the most effective method to check mutual understanding and correct any possible misunderstanding. Safe shift handover must be given the highest priority, conducted face-to-face, undertaken using accurate verbal and written communication based on the analysis of the information needs of the incoming staff, given as much time as necessary to allow for questioning, explanation, and clarification. And that may be an issue, right? Because, like I said, if you're not getting this, but this is what's going on between 2 shifts, between a shift that probably work at 12 hours and then they are leaving and an incoming shift, right? What they're saying here is that if it miss this one, a lot of accidents happen then because the information is not really, handed over, right? And so those who know about the BP disaster, 1984, 167 people died. I think I mentioned that to you all. that was a failure of, at least the theory now suggests, some people may say something else, but at least the scientific theory now suggests it was a result of a permit to work not being handed over then, right? So handover meetings are usually formal and structured. Many experts recommend discussing the various topics in order of relevance to take account of the falling attention span of the staff, right? And I read that one already. So redundancy is the best form of handover. What is redundancy? Redundancy means you're just using all the forms of communication you have. You have face-to-face, you have written, and you also have something else that I'll stress on in a bit, right? So shift handover must be given the highest priority, conducted face-to-face, undertaken using accurate verbal and written communication, and there's one more, is actually 3, verbal, written, and there's one more, based on the analysis of the information needs of the incoming staff, given as much time as necessary, right? So typical examples of shared information during shift handover. Let me admit somebody here. I think it went to put in, oh, we almost finished, right? So I'll put in the participle here at the end, right? At the end of shift handover. Let's try to line up back this slide, right, with where we are. So typical practical example of shared information during shift handover. In the refining industry, control rooms and field operators document their daily activities using a shift log. At shift changes, these logs are an important part of the shift handover process. Examples of the pitfall from not following a structured approach for shift handover are evident throughout recent history. Case in point is that on July 6, 1988, a large fire and explosion on the Piper Alpha offshore platform killed 160, supposed to be 67, right? But again, at the time of writing here, these things kind of go up anyway, right? 167 people and completely destroyed the facility. Typical examples of shared information during shift handover, best achieved using a structured logbook with operators trained to follow and itemize the heading and not just memory or recall. So shift handover is best done with a logbook or like a checklist then. Generally may include maintenance and technical problems, work outsourcing, environmental matters, plan consideration, production and quality, personnel issues, external events, action taken during the shift, routine duties, right? So just a long story short here, if you could make this one out, I'll bring it up a bit bigger here. So I was telling you all, let me just get to the question first. So a safe shift handover, you get the idea what it is, right? So what they were saying, well, first for exam is that there's about 3 ways to ensure a shift handover is done properly, right? So they say use the richest forms of communication, which is verbal communication, written communication, and there's one more, which if asked which is the best one, you have to go for that last one, right? So that if you want to, you want to kind of paraphrase a question here. So if it was, they asked, what is the best way of shift handover? I'll try to make up 3 answers here for you, well, 4, because one of them will be the correct one, right? So if you have to, which is the best means of shift handover? They have face-to-face, they have verbal communication, right? They have verbal, can I just put V? Have verbal, if you have written, right? So all of those are good, but there's actually one better than all of those, right? Anyone knows what that one is? So verbal, written, I'll put graphic here. I guess you waited for me to write it, right? So verbal, written, and graphic. The best form of shift handover communication is actually what they call a physical demonstration, right? They take like a walk then. It's a physical demonstration of what is being said, right? So like if somebody said like in their shift, if somebody said in their shift, you know, that that they noticed a valve had an issue, right? They noticed a valve had an issue, they noticed some gauge that is not, you know, working properly. Then what even though that is said face to face, right? And it may be documented, written, the incoming shift should actually take a walk and go and see, right? So that's what they're saying here. If a physical demo is the best form of a shift handover, right? Imagine like those in Piper Alpha, like if they had actually seen that, if they had actually seen, you know, like there was a line in Piper Alpha that was actually blanketed out there. It was actually blank. They cut the line and they put like a cap in the end of the line. But if you had seen that, there could not have been any doubt in your mind then that the line was not on. So the best form of shift handover, even though verbal written is good, it'd be good to have all three. But if you know it's multiple choice you all are doing, it's multiple choice you all like you all are doing. So if they ask which is the best one, then that is what you know you have to do anyway, right? What do you think of this one?
Excuse me, Sarah, can you tell me the third option?
I just made up that, and that's supposed to be graphic. So verbal, written, graphic. I just making up a false answer now, right? Verbal, written, graphic. But it's a physical demonstration is what the answer is, a physical demo, right? If the incoming shift says, sorry, the outgoing shift said in our 12 hours, we had heard a strange noise from the line, right? We heard a strange noise or we picked up a strange smell, which could be a leaking gas, right? I just saying it picked up a strange smell, but it's 5 to 6. The shift have to change, right? So it's not sufficient then just to tell the incoming shift, you know, we picked up a kind of strange gas smell, right? You know, and yes, they would write it down, but the thing is, like, I mean, so what if that is a flammable gas? The shift leader then should actually go and check it out and see for themselves, because if it is a flammable gas and you just assume, you know, I think if the shift sees or smells the gas, there will be no doubt then that there should be no source of ignition anyway, right? So that's how that is there, where the physical demonstration is always going to be the best one if you are asked which is the best one. Other than that, the question for this is just normal. The question for this one would be like, what's the best way to what's the best way to manage information between, you know, like adjacent teams, or you know, I try not to say shift because I don't even think about to say shift for the answer, but what's the best way to manage information? And if it's a shift handover, well then that would probably be the best one anyway, right? All right, I'm going back to the smaller view. I'm gonna take that off. Take that off as well. All right, so but I guess if I didn't catch, oh no, I wanted to show you something on the form. I don't remember why I bring up the form for you all. I wanted to show you that the form is like a checklist now, right? So if you were like coming out from a 12-hour shift, that's what they said, they're not going to rely on your memory then to see what happened, right? So they're going to go through the elements in the checklist one by one. So during your shift, was there any safety or environmental limits exceeded, or any issues? And of course you put, you know, yes, you put, you know, a tick there, right? Discuss. And then some of it would have yes or no, right? Let's put out another one here. Operating plan status, was there anything there with the rates, the specs, the yields, the energy, right? If again, I mean, this could be yes or no, right? And any safe operating limit had it exceeded on your shift? Was there any disabled and or nuisance alarms that came from the process? Because these things, let me say something is up, right? And of course, if the answer for that is yes, then both leaders of both incoming and outgoing shift, you know, should go and have a look at what is, you know, what is causing the alarm in the first place anyway, right? All right, so getting back to the smaller view here. Right, we can go again. We have some references there for that, right? Contractor management. I feel just to tell you, you know, but what do you all say? let's read some anyway still, right? I mean, there are questions here, and I could tell you the question too, but let's read one or two and see, right? And then I'll pause and explain it anyway. So contractor management. Many categories of contract labor may be present at a job site. Such workers may actually operate the facility or do only a particular aspect of the job because they have specialized knowledge or skill. Other work only for short periods when there's a need for increased staff quickly, such as in turnaround operation. PSM includes special provision for contractors and the employees to emphasize the importance of everyone taking care that they do nothing to endanger those working nearby who may work for another employer. Third party, many include, or third party contractors that may include maintenance contractors, certified gas testing contractors, safety contractors, hot work contractors, inspection service contractors, transport contractors, HSC contractors, if that wasn't said there already. Any others that you all could think about? Like what type of contractors would be on a job site again? What type of contractors would be on a job site again?
You have the housekeeping.
Housekeeping, painters, fabricators. The list goes on and on and on and on. Like I said, safety contractors, HSC persons, drivers, right? So there's a lot of laborers, of course, being probably the backbone of the whole turnaround in the first place, right? Pipe fitters, who again I'm familiar with, process operators, right? All of those persons would be on a job site anyway, right? So procedure for the selection of contractors. This is what I wanted to stop and tell you, but we have the time and we have the slides, so I think I'll still read a bit, right? Because if I tell you then this is finished and I'm looking at the I feel we could spend the time doing a past paper, right? Instead of starting PowerPoint 3. I think we could look at a past paper and reflect a bit anyway, right? Procedures for the selection of contractors. Let me show you some headings, right? So you have to have vision in your head as to what we're doing. So if you watch the heading, you'll see selection. You'll see, that's about selection too. You'll see performance, right? That's performance. And you'll probably would see before the work, during the work, and after the work, right? So that's what you're looking at here. So this is the management of contractors from hiring the contractors to when the contractors leave them, right? So this is the bigger picture of what we want to look at. I will still read it. I just wanted to show you that it wasn't like there's a method to the madness. Then it wasn't just talking about contractors, right? But it's talking about contractors as to hiring those contractors, monitoring those contractors. One of the words you saw was auditing. I didn't want to say it, right? But I'll show you saw it. One of the word was auditing, but that's auditing the contractors during the work, right? And then you also had the hand up back to the clients at the end of a contract anyway, right? So just to point us in the right direction, I would still read in a bit, right? So this is a question, this is a question, this is a question, this is a question, but is which one? Every paper, what they do, they would like they will pick one and like they'll give you some documents, they'll give you an answer and they would say like, which stage of contractor management is this? Is this selection? Is it during the work, right? Or is it the handover back to the client, right? Out of the three though, the most common one is this one, selection. The most common one is selection. I have seen monitoring. I have seen all, but to be honest, the most common one is the selection of contractors anyway. And the answers are kind of close. So you had to kind of pay attention to them anyway, right? Let's see if we can get one here. So acquiring the service of a competent contractor with relevant professional qualification and a proven safety record is basic. Fundamental means basic, right? Basic to any risk control program. It is a legal requirement under the Occupiers Liability Act 1984 and also under Section 2 of the HSW Act 1974. Well, you all will get laws for this exam, so you can forget the laws there, but laws exist, right? So the procedures for selecting contractors should have procedures for the selection of contractors, such as the requirement that they have a health and safety policy, procedures for consultation prior to the commencement of the contract, procedures for the use of owner's equipment, procedures for reporting incidents, procedures for completion report and review meetings, procedures for the contractor's general permit. Anyway, I don't think that slide was exam. They're just saying here that to hire a contractor, you need like a pre-qualification. Those of us who know what all these things are, you know what that is, right? A pre-qualification is before you take on a contractor, you make sure then, if you watch it closely now, the company have a safety policy, the contractor, right? I could call some from Trinidad if you want. Like Junior Sammy then, I mean, I guess Trinidad and Guyana, right? Make sure they have a safety policy, right? I know, of course, Guyana have their running with Junior Sammy as well, but I actually know the safety in Junior Sammy. He's actually a student of my school. He's in the degree class, right? So do the company have a policy statement? Yes, right? So making sure the company have those things, you know, other than passing money, is what will kind of get you into then, like a company then, right? So the company, do they have a procedure for reporting incidents? I know they have. I mean, I don't know if they use it, but I know they have. I know Junior Sammy have all of these things because I know the safety manager, right? Procedures for the completion of reports, review meetings, procedures for the contractors, permit to work, all of those things, they will have it. Whether or not it's being followed, though, is actually something else, right? So this slide, though, I think is more relevant to exam, right? This one is the things that, you know, they have asked then, like, but it's asked kind of closely to the others and them. So we have to see a question. We have to see a question, you know, to be able to answer. So let's try to wrap this up. I could focus on the slides and we could try to look and see what we have on the past paper, right? But if you look at it, these things should tell you that you are looking at the criteria for the selection of a contractor, right? You have the details of the previous employers of the contractor. So who did you work for before us then, right? Who was your previous employer? The details of any incidences or accidents that occurred. Like, what is your emergency procedure? Like, do you have an emergency procedure as a contractor? Details how the contractors control their own subcontractors, and do you have public liability insurance and workmen compensation? This again is a requirement in the UK, and I know also in Trinidad here. Whether or not it's being followed again is something else, right? Yeah. Health and safety performance. So this one, see if you understand the heading, this one is no longer selection. This is while the contractor is working. So while the contractor is working, the company is coming around to like audit what the contractor is doing, right? So this can be done on a periodic basis, or a periodic review of the contractor's health and safety performance. Periodic review can be done by assessing the current performance and tender requirements. So are you keeping up with the tender requirements, right? So in the tender, we had said that you have to provide PPE for your workers. We are noticing that some of your workers don't have a proper PPE, right? Now, under the monitoring audits or inspections, the contractor could actually lose the contractor, right? You could either, you know, at least you get a warning, right? You get a warning as to what's happening. But you know, like if the company had said, you know, like part of the requirement was that there was like no one should have been in use or in the possession of drugs, right? And then, you know, the parent company did a drug test and got about 4 of your workers, you know, tested positive then for marijuana, right? So in certain countries, it is legal, Trinidad, certain, you know, elements, and I guess Guyana too. Is it legal in Guyana? Those of us in Guyana?
Sir, can you ask back the question?
Is marijuana legal in Guyana?
No, no, sir, you could get locked up for the
Really?
not even medical marijuana is legal in Guyana. It's not legal. If police catch you with it, you can get locked up. Even for the littlest amount, you can get locked up.
Okay, that is a bit surprising because while I was at my stay, I thought it was legal because it was in the air.
Yeah, sir, but there's policeman friends, so they ain't gonna lock them up so quick. But let me go and smoke it in the air now. Quick lock up. Me and a policeman friend, so I get locked up quick time.
That was a bit surprising because I actually thought it was. Because it didn't dawn on me, and they see those of us in Trinidad, well, it is legal in Trinidad, certain quantities now, right? So like when I was at my stay then at the hotel, there were people that were smoking it like in the open, which is like what we do in Trinidad now. But I didn't think it was illegal. So that's why I pulled back just now, because I actually thought it was legal in Guyana as well. But if you say no, I guess it was no, because all by the restaurants, people were smoking marijuana then. You could have smelled it then, right? But in Trinidad here, we already do nothing about it anymore because it's certain quantities is legal. But I guess that was surprising there because I did thought it was legal in Guyana as well. Anyway, what I'm saying is that if your workers, 5 of them tested positive for THC, certain companies wouldn't put up with that, right? Trinidad here, remember, we have a very good safety culture. Some companies have a good safety culture. There are companies that is going to send home the contractor for that. Not just the workers, the contractor is going to lose his contract for that, right? Some of these I'm talking from experience, but I don't want to tell you all about the THC thing is a real thing. And monitoring contractors and making sure they follow out at JSA. All of those are things I've done. And if the contractors did not do it, well, they had to get it done. Otherwise, they would have sort of lost that contract anyway, right? So this one, before you saw selection, this is periodic review. So this can be done by periodic review of the contractor's health and safety performance. Periodic review can be done by assessing current performance with tender requirements. Periodic review can serve as a means of determining whether or not to continue to use the service of that contractor. Reviews can serve as a means of continual improvement. Anyway, so you have to be careful, right? I don't know if you're picking up all of this. Like, again, I'll tell you what they do here. They give you documents and they will ask you what stage of the contractor management is that, right? So if you look at things like accident reports, that may be periodic review, because like if after 3 months then you look at the company's accident reports, right? That may be periodic review, right? Safe shift handover, just pulling out some things from here, right? That may be periodic review. So are you all filling out the safe shift handover form? What about permit to work? Have you all been filling them out? What about JSAs? Have you all been filling them out, right? So that's the idea with these anyway, right? We have ownership, but auditing is actually continuous review as well. You see that there, auditing aims to find objective evidence of whether or not the organization is complying with its stated aims and objectives. So if you audit a contractor, you want to make sure the contractor is doing what they said they were going to do. Contractors must take ownership of the work. They should plan, manage, and monitor to ensure the work is without risk. They must provide adequate levels of information, training, and information. Contractors and management should cooperate to achieve the health and safety welfare of all involved in the work. So before the work, auditing contractors, we could look at their method statement, the risk assessment, the permit to work, the job specific knowledge, the experience. Do they have site rules? Do they have an alcohol and drug policy? Do they have safe shift handover forms and stuff? During the work, we can check to see if they follow out the form. Have they been doing inspections? Have they been doing safety observation? Any accidents that was reported, any internal audits that was done. So the forms is what I say they're giving you, and you know it's not too hard, right? Like some people think it hard, but like most of the question is on selection, and like when they ask the questions, if you see things like references to previous employer, well then that is going to be the selection of the contractor, right? The last couple of slides here. A handover comes at the, so I'll skip a couple of slides, right, because the idea is the same. A handover comes at the end of the project to install, construct, or modify an asset. It usually involves the client formally accepting what the contractor would have done for them, accepting the asset or the work area and relevant information from the contractor. The handover process should ensure that the client is confident that their new piece of whatever the contractor was working on is ready for use and that they are able to operate, manage, and maintain it. What does the contractor give to the client at the end? They give them the names and details of any duty holders involved in the project, any design calculations and specification, maybe it's a piece of equipment, any drawings, any manufacturer's data sheet, any operation and maintenance instruction for what they would have installed, any commissioning test results that they did, any records of inspection or test witnessing, details of any training or instructions delivered, right? So written schemes of examination for pressure systems or lifting equipment must be turned over back to the client. New or revised arrangements and risk assessments for using, maintaining, or managing the assets must be given. Any maintenance detail, any third-party approval, do you have a fire certificate? Do you have anything that you did, you know, and the results of those keys, right? Keys, if there's any, definitely the keys, whatever they would have built, whatever, if it's a machine or a motor, what is the key, how to use it, all of those things must be handed over back to the client, right? So we are finished there. I think, like I said, I think what I'll do, I would try to kind of get you all involved because to start something now, it's about 10 past, just about going to 10 past 2, right? I would try to do some questions then, right? As opposed to put something new, this sort of late stage of the game anyway, right? So next week, Sunday, we'll start off chapter 3 fresh and we can take it from there anyway. So what you can do, you can try to see if you can take part in this one. We probably spend about 10 minutes on questions. I know we had done some of this, but I can't remember how far we reached because I have another class, another process class too. But I would assume it was somewhere around here, right? Like number 10, right? I think, I'm not sure if you all can remember how far we reached, number 10, around there. But maybe we can start back with number 8, number 9, and see how fast we can go there anyway, right? If you don't have the question paper with you, what you can probably do is just probably write down number 8, because this was emailed to you all. This is the same paper I think I'm using, right? Number 8 or number 9 or number 10, and you can just put the answer next to it anyway. Just give me 1 minute and well, less than a minute, 10 seconds, and I would start with number with number 8. Okay, so number 8, a permit to work. So this is the same thing I was saying, right? I mean, so I don't know if we did this one already, but it's been worthwhile to kind of go it over and make a remember they do love repeating. So I'll take from number 7. I'll take from number 7, right? I'll take from number 7. So which form of risk assessment is most appropriate when the risk is potentially intolerable? The answer for this would have been quantitative. It would have been D. right? Number 8, a permit to work is usually required in preparation for an activity with no risk, any risk, low risk, or high risk. But we know for now, having a discussion we had, that this one is D. Which of the following is most likely to help you develop a safe system of work? I think we also did that one. Another name for a safe system of work is a task-based risk assessment. Some companies actually do call it that. So the best answer here is actually E, right? Task analysis. Right, I'll tell you when I wanted to do one, right? I kind of recap it. Some of these we did them last 2 weeks, so I kind of recap it.
Yes,
And we hit a new one. Yeah. So that's what I said. And so that's why you see me not asking you to give the answer yet now, because I know I kind of remember we did this as well, right? But number 10 is actually kind of relevant to what we just spoke about, right? Inspecting a workplace where contract workers are carrying out work. That's what we just do, right? Inspecting a workplace where contract workers, so that it's not selection, it's, where the work is being done already. Is it performance monitoring, actively monitoring, condition monitoring, reactively monitoring? What is not D, and I think the best one for this could have been B, right? Inspecting, inspection falls under active monitoring, right? Inspection falls under active monitoring. Always does, if you remember the KPIs and them, right? Inspection always falls under active monitoring. Okay, number 11. So maintenance work is planned at plant A. The work is likely to have a significant impact on the operations of a second plant, plant B. What is the most effective way of controlling the risk between the two plants in this situation? And what they have here, you want to have a go at this one? See, we can have a go at this one. Let's try to reach about, maybe if we could reach question 15, 16 there, the better for us.
D.
D. Yeah, D is the best answer, right? Display a duplicate permit to work in plant A and plant B. Now remember, folks, by doing these questions, you're actually doing your questions, and you don't know which one coming back, but they do come back. That's the other thing, right? So when you see, I was telling you, if you do a paper, you get 10 repeat, 20 repeat, 15 repeat. People have actually counted up to 20 something repeat sometimes, right? So you do get repeats, and the thing, like, why I'm saying that, to tell you that you can rest a bit easy now, right? Like that means, I mean, I won't say half the exam in the bag. I'll probably say like maybe quarter of the exam in the bag, and the rest of it you get it for yourself. But the repeats too does settle you. Like the repeats does make you go faster. Like if you see a question, you just shade it, you just kind of take it down and then you kind of go, right? Repeats kind of make you go a bit faster anyway, right? All right, what is normally included in the periodic review of the safety performance of contractors working on a site? So this is almost what we did again. What is normally included in the periodic review? So this is like a monthly review or quarterly review of the safety performance of contractors working on the site. Please note, remember there are 3 stages of contractor management: selection, like this one here is actually maintenance or monitoring, and you have handover. So I was telling you, remember when I stop and I tell you something, it come in, right? The fact that you're seeing it. When you hear me reading slides and I tell you, okay, no questions here. But when I reach a slide and it have a question, you see me stop and I tell you, look, they bring the stages of contractor management. So this one have monitoring, which is why the work is being done. The question is now, which documents fall under monitoring or periodic review? So let's see, a request for method statements, risk assessment, and official licenses. What do you think about that? Would you look for official licenses in a periodic review? Would you look for licenses in a periodic review? What do you think? Like where do you think A falls? Does A fall in selection, periodic review, or
I think it's
handover?
selection.
Yeah,
Selection.
selection, right? Official licenses is selection, so A is wrong, right? Okay, B, scrutiny of the contractor's health and safety policy and previous prosecutions. Where do you think that should fall?
And selection as well.
Yeah, I think I should probably put S. Let me just put the thing else. Remember, it says selection. We can say periodic review, right? I'll put PR and then handover. I'll put a H there, right? So B is wrong as well because they didn't ask that. They asked periodic review, right? C, an analysis of the contractor's training records, qualifications, and past experiences. Now that sounds like selection as well, right? Remember, different people set a different thing here. Sometimes they add selection. This one didn't. So then the answer is D. Let's see if it makes any sense. Inspection to check compliance. Yes, that is periodic review. And accident data review meetings. This one is the answer. D is the answer. But if you remember how I show you here, just forget, all the reading for a bit, right? Selection, periodic review, handover. That's the 3 stages of contractor management. I'm taking it off in this piece. I'm going to try to push to 15, but I don't think, I'm looking at 13. 13 is chapter 3. Right? 13 is chapter 3. So maybe we shouldn't. 14 is chapter 3. 15 is chapter 3. Yeah, the papers come just like that, and then the first set of questions is on chapter 1. Next set of questions, chapter 2. Right? Until you eventually reach the end of the paper, which have questions on chapter 4. All of this is chapter 3. Bonds may actually be chapter 4, but 17, all is chapter 3. After next week class, you could do some of that. You'll be able to do them. All of that is chapter 3, nitrogen. But maybe we could do nitrogen, or we could leave it. We could come back and look at that. Nitrogen fairly is common sense-ish, right? Number 21 we can do. Number 22 we could do. Number 23 we can do, right? Let's try these, right? Which of the following best describes the main focus of process safety? I think we do that already, but in another paper or another slide. What best describes the focus of process safety?
D.
The answer is D, right? Prevented major accidents within high-risk industries. I think we did some of this, but it may have been, look this one, a permit to work is usually required in preparation for an activity with high risk. Kind of the same question, but that's because we merge these questions together, right? Which of the following is a lagging indicator? I think some of these we may have done already. Which of the following is a lagging indicator? A lagging indicator is, I think that's a tricky one. I think you need a book for that one, number 23.
We did this one.
Yeah, it was B.
That's B.
Yeah.
Okay, B. Okay, all right, okay. I'll take that. I'll take the B. Bow tie, one from last week. A bow tie is a risk management tool that identifies barriers to change, prevention barriers only, mitigation barriers only, prevention and mitigation barriers. The answer there would have been D, right? I think some of these we did. Process safety differs from personnel safety because it protects. The answer there would have been D. Which is following a leading indicator. The answer is E, right? Number 27, 26 is E. Sorry to do them like this, but that's because, like I said, we don't really get a whole paper from Bosch anymore. Since we don't even see the questions anymore, we have to kind of just ratchet them anyway, right? Number 27, it is very common, or a very common practice to segregate an accommodation block from the process plant. What type of risk control is this an example of? What do you think of number 27? Segregate an accommodation block from process plant. This is actually something we have to do a bit too in chapter 3. What type of risk control do you think that is? Maybe we can leave this one for now till it's a bit tricky. If you had an answer, I would like to hear it though. For number 27 though.
So would it be engineer control?
No.
I think it's more administrative.
I think it's more
Yeah, I
administrative.
use administrative
Yeah.
control.
Mhm.
Like engineering talks about if there's some sort of technology, but you see segregating.
Yeah.
Segregating is more administrative. Like you can just say, okay, this is a smoking room. This room here, we're gonna designate this room as a smoking room. This is where the people are gonna come to smoke, right? So that's not really technology. That's segregating a room. Or this room here, this room, we're gonna start using this room for a chemical storage room here, right? Or even storing parts. Now, the fact that they're storing parts, the parts may be technology, but the act of designating that room is more administrative, right? Folks, I'll stop there. I think we did some. I kind of did this to kind of let you know that, remember, there's always an exam in play here, right? Always keep that in mind. And as the work gets done, the questions, you could see them being done at the same time, right? So I think we could kind of get the road done for today. And we start fresh, right? 2:20 is not a time to start something new anyway today. All right, let me stop the recording. Again, like I said,